Okay, so let's get started by modeling something a little bit more difficult. So I wanted to get started by modeling this crate. And after that we will do one that looks a little roughly like this. Like we'll just mesh up something together. They're all pretty basic. The nice thing about this is there's like lots of symmetry going on. So we can save quite a bit of time doing that. Like over here. This is all symmetry. So honestly we only need to make like half of this crate. And then we're already golden. Then it should be fine. Also, here at the bottom, we will make these side details, but we will not actually make any details on the bottom. And the reason for this is once again because you will never be able to see it. This will be like a base crate. On this one, we will most likely create some details. Just because these ones we are probably going to stack, but these ones we will only have like one or two at the bottom and just will make it look cool. Don't worry about that. I believe that, so the legs, they are split up into 6 pieces. Let's get started by just creating like a little cube to give us a rough sense of scale. So let's delete those 2 pieces, the light and the camera. And let's have a look. Let's just grab this cube. I always just like to do this just to make sure that I know what I'm doing. So it is quite wide. A little bit thicker. And let's then go into edit mode. And let's just move this up and see. So, because yeah, most of this is going on feel, pretty much. And I couldn't find a lot of reference. Like this one looks quite a bit wider. I'm not sure how wide we want to make it. So, of course, that's the nice thing about 3D. We have the flexibility to choose. So here, I might go like a little bit wider. I'm not sure. I went for, what did I do? 1.3? Or is this the, yeah, so 1.4. Let's say that the width is going to be 1.4, just to keep it even numbers. The height is going to be 2 in the scale. And the Z is going to stay at 1, probably. Maybe we want to make it like a little bit larger. Oh wait, of course the Z won't even be able to notice it. So the Z is like around 1.6. Because of course we move it. When you move it with your face, these scalings over here, they kind of break. Like you will not really be able to notice them anymore. Or they wouldn't update correctly. Let me say it like that. Okay, yeah, that should work. Now, let's get started by just creating this bottom base. I'm going to probably start by creating... Actually, let's just duplicate this cube over here. Let's scale this down. Let's move this here. It might look a bit strange, but scale it down a bit more. So you basically just want to try and get like this thickness that we have over here. Whoops. Like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press Alt-I. And now that I have this one piece, okay, let's get started. So I'm going to make this a little bit thicker. And I first want to create like this insert. Now this insert, it looks like it has an insert. And then in the middle, on both sides, it has like 2 of these little pieces that give like a little extra detail of going inwards. So let's get started with that. Do we first want to do the corner? I think we first want to create these corners. And we want to probably make those round. Actually, you know what? Let's do that later. The reason I'm going to choose to do it later is because then we can do this one and this corner at the same time. And hopefully... that will flow over a little bit better. If it doesn't, then we need to do them separately anyway. But for now, let's do them later. So, let's press 3 and go into face select. And I'm going to just press I to inset this. Not sure if I showed you the inset before. If I didn't, it's also in here. So here, inset faces. So just press I or use this button here. The reason I like the shortcut is because if you need to press it from here, yeah, you then need to do like another click and then you need to scale it down and you need to hold that click. While if I press I don't need to hold anything on my mouse. All I need to do is just move my mouse a little bit and then here, it's just like that extra millisecond faster. And that's just, yeah, I prefer that. So, the next thing would be for us to decide our thickness. Now, I quite like this thickness, but as you can see, because this isn't a perfect cube, inset doesn't always perfectly scale it. So we want to go into our scale mode, click, hold shift to do some precise scaling, and then just scale this out on our y-axis to make sure that this is, let's see, roughly the same thickness. like that. Great. Okay, cool. So we've done those pieces. Now next thing is we need to create these little details over here. They are actually going to be quite easy. So we are going to use Ctrl R, which we've used quite a few times before by now. And I'm going to place 2 pieces here. Ctrl R, use your scroll wheel to just increase the lines and place 2 pieces there. I believe that is fine, because as you can see over here, they are quite close together. So we'll see how close we can get. So if we just select these lines, and now if you press Ctrl B, which is a bevel node, if you use a bevel on a flat surface, it will simply split everything up into 2, which is really nice. It's really helpful. So we can simply split this up into 2, and we can choose how thick we want this to be. So let's say we go for something like a thickness like this. The next step would be to just double click on these lines again, because we didn't want to have all those faces selected. There we go. And now you want to do another thickness. The reason you want to do this is I will show you. So give this the thickness, and this thickness is going to be this little edge that you have over here. Because what you can do now is you can select these 2 pieces and select these 2. And the reason why we select them on both sides is because we want to have everything perfectly even. And then we can use our scaling. Click, hold shift, and we can actually scale this up. And as you can see, that will create this profile for you. So after this, we can simply select this and extrude this in. Or extrude this in. So select this, click, hold shift to do some precise selecting, and select this out again. Now, if you are not happy with over here with like the straightness, I would say, you can go ahead and you can like use your scroll wheel, or use your scale. I don't know why I keep saying scroll wheel. Use your scaling to kind of like scale it in. And I'm just going to scale it in a little bit, probably. Like that. Do be careful, because we are now manually editing it. So we do want to make sure that we don't go too uneven. Like if you go a little bit uneven, honestly, it doesn't matter too much, because no way that you can actually see it visibly. It's more that, if you go too far, then people will be able to notice it. So if I do this, yeah, that will look very bad. So I just want to go nice and careful, something like that. Great. Okay, so when that is done, the next thing that you want to do is, I want to go ahead and I'm going to keep I will optimize my geometry later on. Technically, I'm tempted to simply select this, press Q and merge at center so that it's easier for me to select things. But the reason I'm not going to do that now is because when we turn this into high poly, that might backfire on us. So we will, once we've done our low poly-ish version, we will go ahead and turn it into a high poly. And then we will go ahead and go back to our low poly and optimize it a bit more. I don't know why I can't speak today. For some reason, it's weird. But anyway, I'm just selecting all of these faces over here. Just make sure you don't have anything else selected. And for this one, it's just a matter of scaling this down a bit. Just don't scale it down too far, because then you get this problem. But for now, this should be fine. And that's about it, because honestly, we are going to have this crate in between here. So you will not be able to really see any more details inside of here. And if you would see details, we can simply do those inside of Substance Painter. And that would still, yeah, it would be easier. So, having done that, actually one thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to, now I say that, I'm going to press I to inset. I'm going to inset this. And then I'm going to select this face and I'm going to use my scroll wheel to scale it flat. So the way that I scale it flat is I just scale it. And then down here in the resize, I just set this to 0, which means that it becomes perfectly flat. So here, you just scale it. Doesn't matter how much you scale it, because you will just go in here and you will go ahead and set these to be 0. And same over here, 0. There we go. So now that those are nice and square, we can simply select the center bits over here. Make sure nothing else is selected and just press delete. Because we don't need it, and in the UV it would just take up wasted space. So that is good. Nice. Now what we're going to do is we are going to work on creating these weird things. Now, I feel like these look a little bit like pallets, so they would become their own standalone little pieces. Although over here, I think it's the shadow that makes it look like it goes all the way down. So I don't think it's going to be like one big straight piece. I think they are going to be separate pieces, because else it would be strange, because then everything would kind of connect into each other, and you can't really do that. So knowing that, we need to divide this up evenly. Now over here we actually already have something that might even already be salvageable, because these pieces are quite even. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little bit of an helper shape, probably. A helper shape is very easy. It's I call it a helper shape. I'm just turning on my wireframe. So, but it's honestly, it's just a simple cube. So Shift A cube. And this cube is just here for us to figure out the correct scaling of all of our pieces. And then we can just move this cube around, because we do want to create this out of one solid piece, and we don't just want to create an extra cube on top of it. The reason for this is because it will make our bevels nicer when we turn everything into one solid piece. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to... Why can't I select this? There we go. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move this up. And first things first is we kind of just need to like figure out the scaling. I'm already going to also do like the angle like this, because I want to get a good visual representation. Hey, that's actually pretty spot on. Yeah, okay, perfect. I think that's pretty good. And this one, the nice thing is that we already know that it's in the center, because we can see it both by our grid line over here, and we can also see it because we can see that we are in between these two edges, which we know we placed pretty much in the center. So once you're happy with that, next thing is I need to move this back a little bit, because I want to keep a little bit of space there. And then I'm going to go ahead and move this over here. Now, I said that we would be able to do like symmetry on this, but honestly, the way that we are modeling now, it might even be quicker for us to just do the base as one piece, because doing symmetry on this piece over here, yeah, I don't know, it sometimes turns messy. So I don't think we will save that much time with symmetry, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it like this. So these are quite thin. These are quite thin, but these over here, they look a little bit longer. So having these, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to just hold Control Shift. Duplicate them first, so Control C, Control V, and now hold Control. I was thinking about, what was it? Max. I was thinking about 3 years max. That's the one. I'm going to move this one back. I'm going to move this one back. Okay. And now we need to place another 2 over here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to actually reuse this. And the reason I'm going to do that is so that I know that this is all on one line. And then over here, I'm just going to kind of like eyeball it. And I'm going to go ahead, and I'm feeling like the angle is different, but I'm sure that's just kind of an illusion. I think that is correct. Let's go ahead and move this over here. And now let's also go ahead and move this over here. There we go. Okay, so we now know roughly the dimensions, I should say. What I'm going to do now is I first need to go into this model, and I need to do a Ctrl R's, because we just need to go ahead and create some outlines, like we do over here. And using these outlines, we can also later on measure everything out. So that's why I wasn't bothering too much about placing this exactly on the line. Because now what we can do is we can simply go back into edit mode, double check that over here everything is on the line, and then we can see like, okay, so this one needs to go forward a bit. This one maybe like a little bit, but that's about it. Okay, now that we know that, we can actually reuse the lines that we already have over here. No use in us placing new ones. I'm gonna go ahead and, shall I just double click on this? Oh no, if I double click it will of course loop around. In that case I'm just gonna do them one by one. So I'm gonna do this one, I'm gonna go ahead and move this one and move this one. I don't really care about the zigzagging right now, because that will kind of like be optimized later on, so that will look cleaner later on. All I care about now is just to get these lines in the right location so that we can just extrude this out in one go without any issues, and then we can also bevel it all out, and we don't need to do any type of like merging together or any other weird stuff. It will just work instantly, which will save us time in the long run. So we've done that one, let's do this one. There we go. Yeah, that should work. Okay, so now it's just a simple matter of going into face select. Selecting these faces, it might be a bit tricky to see them, but just select them below here. Like that. And once everything is selected, all you really need to do is you need to press Shift E. You need to extrude these up. And then in here, you should be able to have a... proportional editing. No, so if you turn on proportional editing, there you should be able to like create a loop, but I don't think it actually works the way I want it to. Constant? No. Now you know what? I'm going to turn that off, and instead what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna go ahead and shall I just scale them individually, or shall I do like a bevel? If I do a bevel, whoa, something is wrong. Or not? I think I have double vertices. Let me just double check. Oh no, I don't have double vertices. What if I just select edges? Something is wrong. Let's go ahead and just select all of our vertices by pressing A. Do a Q and do a merge at distance. Oh no, that worked. That is interesting. So for some reason bevel breaks it. I'm not sure why, but honestly I'm also not too worried. We can try and press Q and reset all the transforms and see if that works. Oh, that works. So my idea was to just like bevel this all the way down, but I don't think that's going to actually work. So in that case, I'm just going to simply scale this all in, because that's why we have our measure shapes anyway. So we don't need to really worry about that too much. I don't like to overcomplicate things. Like I could find like a fancy way of doing it perfectly well, but honestly, if you can scale this, you just scale this and then just scale this on one axis like that. It's not really worth the extra time trying to find a fancy way. Because honestly, modeling can be quite basic at times. Like it doesn't have to be very complicated often. I find that if you complicate things too much, it will just discourage you a little bit, especially when you're learning. We will probably do some more complicated stuff later on, but for these things, honestly, it's just like... Come on, scaling. There we go. So now those are all one pieces. So if I would now select everything, and then deselect my main piece, I can just press delete. And there we go. So, that is now all set and done. The next thing would be for us to decide if we want to have this as geometry, these details over here, or if we are going to go ahead and have them inside of Substance Painter only as normal map details. But we will go ahead and we will continue with that in the next chapter.